This will be an open forum, so please raise your hand if you have a question or comment, and I will call on you as soon as possible. A bit about Josh, our guest of honor here, Josh Seckinger. Josh faced some fierce and handsome competition in this year's primary for the Democratic nomination, but ultimately succeeded to face Republican challenger Owen Lang, whom he defeated in the general election thanks to the right positions, tenacity, and volunteers helping him in numerous ways. Josh is originally from Wisconsin. He has called Montana home for the past 15 years. He's got a diverse background, including seismic mapping, food distribution, newspaper printing, and construction labor. He discovered his true passion as a fly fishing guide a decade ago, specializing in guiding Montana's renowned rivers, such as the Yellowstone, Gallatin, Madison, and the Smith. Josh is committed to preserving the state's outdoor heritage while advocating for important issues like increased public school funding, women's reproductive rights, and property tax reform. So welcome, Josh. Thank you for being here. I want to thank you for taking time out of your Herculean schedule to meet with us and constituents, and for braving your former primary challenger as the MC for this question and answer session. You can thank Donald Trump and Elon Musk for taking all the oxygen out of the room.
Oh my.
So I'm not as fully vested maybe as I should have otherwise have been. So with that introduction, I want to first ask you, Josh, what you foresee is the most important legislation happening in the next couple of weeks and then throughout the rest of the session.
In the next couple of weeks, I guess I'll start with property tax. We have passed two. Am I muted or no? Just
No,
making sure.
You're good.
Okay. We have passed two property tax bills out of the House chamber last week. And if I boggle the numbers, I'm not even going to give the numbers. There's too many numbers. One's from the Republican side, one's from our side. We also passed a housing fairness tax credit that's now linked to the Republican tax proposal. So if that housing fairness tax credit doesn't pass, the numbers in the Republican proposal will change if that fails, providing more relief and direct property tax relief. So I think that being property tax was the biggest issue of the election cycle for literally everyone, all 100 people in this room. So the fact that we have two proposals plus that housing fairness tax credit going to the Senate right now is no small feat. Outside of that, we passed the STARS Act, which increases teacher pay. We killed school vouchers. A lot has happened this session. This next week, for those that don't know, at day 45, around day 45, we take what we call a transmittal break for a week. Yesterday was legislative day 43, so we're coming up on this transmittal break, and it is a crush of work. So I know what bad bills are coming. There's 7 anti-trans bills coming to the House floor within the next 3 days. And it seems like all the bad stuff comes at the end. But, we did get some important work done in these first 43 days, and we'll see what happens next with all the bills coming from the Senate side.
So I want to go back to what you mentioned right off the bat on property taxes, the housing fairness tax credit. Can you explain that a bit?
Yeah, so just the tax credit?
Yep.
Yes, so essentially if you are a low income worker, you will get the portion of your property taxes that you pay back in the form of an income tax credit, up to a certain dollar amount, depending on how much money you make. So the idea being that we're not hitting people twice. So you would pay your property taxes in November and May. Your income taxes are due in April. And essentially you get a rebate based on what you paid in property taxes with your, I just did that twice. It's been a
No,
really long week.
no, understood. I think I follow. I was reading a little bit about this. And is there a plan for renters as well in this tax credit?
Yes. Yes. So renters get a percentage back as well, because there's the understanding that within your rent, a portion of your rent up to 15% is used by your landlord to pay property taxes. So low income renters would also be eligible to
Right.
receive this tax credit. Yes.
That's fantastic. And is so I also read that some Republicans were using the argument that uh, this would trickle down if they so they're against this amendment because uh, for renters specifically, because this should trickle down in the fair market with competition amongst landlords, which is yeah.
I mean, I've rented my entire life. Never once have I heard of someone getting a rent reduction.
Mhm.
Um, so that, I think that's wishful thinking. This ensures that people get some money back, um, regardless of what the landlord decides to do. And that for the renter, it's based on how much you pay in rent a month.
Mhm.
So
Yep. Yeah, there's a very successful similar program in Minnesota. It's not explicitly tied to income tax credits, but there is a rebate program that's been many years successful. Definitely a big proponent of that. What do you think the chances are of it making through whatever the process would be? And can you explain that process a little bit and how this moves forward?
yeah, so just the process in general is that a bill gets introduced, it goes to committee. If it has a monetary component, well, hold on, I got to back up one step. It goes to the first committee, comes to the House floor for what we call second reading. That's where, if you've ever seen debate on legislative floor, that's always on second reading. If it passes second reading and it has a monetary component, it goes to the Appropriations Committee. So it has another committee hearing. If it comes out of appropriations without being amended, it goes to what we call third reading. And third reading is no debate, straight up or down vote. Third reading is fast. So if it passes third reading in the House, it goes over to the Senate and does the exact same process over there. Um, so the Republican tax bill, the Democratic tax bill, and the housing fairness tax credit are all out of the hands of this body and now on their way to the Senate. And I do think the housing fairness tax credit, because of the coordinating language that they put into the Republican tax proposal, has a very good chance of passing. Um, and that coordinating language says essentially that if the Republican tax proposal passes and the housing fairness tax credit fails, the Republican proposal has to lower the tax rates to the same as what they were in 2022. So politically, it would be very bad for the Republican Party to to pass that tax bill and not pass our tax credit.
Interesting.
Yeah.
There's a question in the chat. Nina Jagger is asking, what committees are you serving on?
Oh, that's a great question. I am on business and labor, fish, wildlife, and parks, and natural resources. So in my day job at home, I'm a fishing guide, and my side of the aisle thought that would be the best place to put me. Um, and natural resources and business and labor are fun, and fish, wildlife, and parks is terrible.
Really?
Oh yes.
Can you expound on that a little more?
I can, yeah. We have had, by my count, six bills dealing with wolf hunting, which bring out everyone. It's a wolf bill is a terrible time, and we've had 6 of them, which means the committee starts at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a normal day, and we've been there till 8:30, 9 o'clock on some of these wolf bills. So it's just long days.
So it's business and labor, fish and wildlife and parks, and natural resources.
Yes. Yes.
All right. So I'm particularly interested in some of the details of the wolf bills. Can you tell me some more about those?
Yeah, so we had okay, so we started off with, and I think I remember the numbers on these, HB 101, which was Fish, Wildlife, and Parks preferred wolf bill. It changed the status of the wolf from a species in need of management to a fur bearer, which comes with some extra protection for the animal itself and changes the hunting season a little bit. That got tabled in committee. Then we had HB 176, which said if there were over, I believe it was 550 wolves in the state, that basically there'd be a year-round hunting season with no quotas. And then we had HB 222, which was strikingly similar, unlimited wolf hunting season, I think until we just had a lot of wolf bills. The Kalispell area, Region 1, Northwest Montana, has, admittedly, they have a wolf problem. And it's just, I don't think it's good policy for us to be setting statewide management goals based on a problem in one area. We recently had a bill, House bill, I want to say it was 258, that passed the House. And it extended the wolf hunting season, but our own Scott Rosenzweig, with my help and the help of some others, got in the fight on the wolves, and he put an amendment on that created a buffer zone around Yellowstone National Park and Glacier National Park for wolf hunting, which actually passed, which is great. So that bill's gone. It's over in the Senate. But a lot of wolf stuff.
Is there any science behind any of these proposals? I mean, I've done a little bit of ecology studies in my day. I know 30 to 50 breeding pairs for a local population is ideal. 500 for a population that can actually travel back and forth so that the genetic diversity stays healthy. Is there any of that consideration in these, or is it pretty emotional?
It's mostly emotional, and there's always some reference to the 2009 original delisting document, which stated for the 3-state region of Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho that there should be a population of around 1,200 wolves, and I believe it was, I think it was 50 breeding pairs for the whole region and 15 breeding pairs for the state of Montana, which would have been a population of something like 382 wolves. There's always reference to that, but it's mostly the other thing. So
of these, which one is it 258, the extended wolf hunting season with the buffers that has made it further along in the process?
so and there's 2 of them that are right next to each other. There's 258 and 259, and I believe 258 was the one we got the buffer zone on. And so that passed, and then 176. 101 got tabled in committee. I actually tried to blast 101 out of committee onto the floor yesterday. The blast motion was Someone's in here with me. The blast motion failed along party lines, and then 222 we killed on the floor. So
176 is passed, which says if there are over 550 wolves in the state, there's unlimited hunting.
yes,
Okay.
yeah,
Right.
and the current population is something around 1,200
So unlimited hunting.
for a while. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, not good. But even though you guys all worked your tails off to get this delegation from Gallatin County elected, we're still outnumbered 58-42 in here. And when they set their mind to something, we can't stop them. So the really bad wolf bill was 222. That died 60-40 on the floor. They saw it as a real problem. It would have 222 would have resulted in the wolf being relisted as an endangered species, which it's neither side of the aisle wants that.
Oh, Bill 222, the purpose was to relist as endangered.
No. That would have been the end. That would have been the end result.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yep.
All right. We've got a question here from Julia. And Julia asks in chat what kind of testimony there has been about these wolf bills.
It's generally the same people that come in from hunting advocacy groups or wolf advocacy groups or concerned citizens, former park employees. But I think if I pull my notes on all of the wolf bills, the proponents and opponents for those bills are generally the same. FWP, the first three wolf bills, 101, 222, and 176, occupied all three of the positions in testimony as proponent on 101, opponent on 222, and informational on 176. So it's the wolf stuff is interesting. I'm known as the wolf guy around here now. So yeah.
I'm curious if there is any discussion about the economic impacts, especially close to Yellowstone. I mean, that's a huge reason. I mean, there are wolf watchers there all summer, come from all over the world just to watch the wolves. And I'm wondering if the economics of that has been studied relative to higher elk herd populations and you think you get where I'm going.
Yeah, studied, no. Brought up repeatedly, yes. Jamie Isley from Livingston is also on Fish, Wildlife, and Parks with me, and he is a staunch advocate for the folks in Gardner who run the wolf watching tours. And that was part of the justification for the buffer zone around the parks was, look, this is a business and people come from everywhere to come see these animals. Let's create a safe space for them so that they can just do what they do without being shot the second they cross the park boundary. So yeah.
It was a 15-mile buffer?
Yes.
Cool.
It was going to go without a buffer. So 15 miles is, it's not nothing.
Great. Let's see what else should we move on to here. There's several questions in the chat. Doug Smith testified question. He's a longtime wolf biologist. Jackie Gilmore.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Jackie Gilmore asked about House Bill 506 about justices appointed by sitting governors.
So if I'm being totally frank, I'm not 100% up on this. This is HB 506, and from my understanding, it is, well, it's causing division. So if you didn't hear last week, we killed the partisan judge bill here on the floor. It was Representative Fielders, if I'm remembering correctly. And it died, thankfully, on the floor, 55-45, if my memory serves me right. I could get the binder out and find out. But so partisan judges from the House side are dead. 506 is causing division in the caucus on what do we want to do. So from my understanding, it allows the governor to appoint from a list of judicial nominees that have been approved by a board, which includes the Speaker of the House and Minority Leader and the President of the Senate and the Minority Leader in the Senate, plus 2 lawyers. Yeah, I think that's right. And they pick a panel of Jackie Gilmore left. But it's I don't know where I'm at on this yet. I have people on both sides of this in the Democratic Party talking about this bill. It is weird. The conversation is happening, but we have not, as a body, taken a vote on this yet. And to my understanding, it is still in committee. So it's hard to say. It's I'll just real quickly, the beauty of the committee system is that I personally don't have to keep track of 2,000 bills, right? I defer to my colleagues who are on the Judiciary Committee for their judgment. I'll read it. I'll get my initial judgment, but I will consult with them to see what what they think as well. They're the ones who sit in the hearing. They're the ones who either did they take the first initial votes on it. So thankfully, I don't have to try to keep track of 2,000 bills.
Yeah, that's a nightmare.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to a question, change pace a little. Let's talk about bills that you're sponsoring or co-sponsoring.
Okay. Co-sponsoring. Let's just talk about bills I'm sponsoring. It'll be much quicker.
So I went to the billsledgemont.gov and searched your name in the bill explorer. 10 of them came up. So clarify water right abandonment is the first one that comes up.
Okay, so that's HB 508 or 580.
Yep.
Yeah, I get a little.
It's a lot to keep track
of. So that one I actually am presenting on the floor tomorrow. Basically what it does is, under current law, if a water right holder decides they don't want to use their full water right, they can be sued for what is known as abandonment, which means you didn't use it, so now we're going to take it from you. This bill, HB 580, would allow water rights holders in times of drought and within a drought plan to reduce their use. So they don't have to pull out the full amount, because right now they have to use it all or they could lose it. That's so this clarifies that so that we can conserve some water in these really hot parts of the summer. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's kind of, it seems like a no-brainer, common sense.
You're about to hear that on all of these bills that I am the principal sponsor on.
I'm curious, how does is there actually like somehow, measuring water withdrawal for these water rights, or is it, submitted as part of a plan? Uh, and so it's just sort of your, the gentleman's principle or, agreement.
No, there's excuse me, the water rights are measured. So you get a certain amount of water that's either in gallons per minute, acre feet. So an acre foot is 1 foot of water on 1 acre, or cubic foot per second out of a river. So there, each water right in the state is measured. Um, so, and again, this for someone to reduce under my bill, uh, there has to be at least a D1 drought designation by the National Drought Monitor, which is a compilation of data from the National Drought Mitigation Center, the USDA, so Department of Agriculture, and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Those are what make up the National Drought Monitor, and there has to be a drought plan in place, either at the state, local, or regional level. So this is a common sense piece of legislation. It passed out of committee unanimously. I suspect it will do fairly well on the floor.
Okay. And I really want to ask, what is the federal level, if the Doge team cuts funding for NOAA? I have a friend who works at NOAA and in Seattle, and she just watched all of her first and second year colleagues get fired.
Yeah.
And so how do you legislate when there's so much uncertainty, right, with this? That's sort of a big question, but let's try to tailor it just to this for now.
I mean, it's the elephant over the room, right? We sitting here like, oh, we're just gonna keep doing what we're doing until we can't. But man, it's all these federal employees and getting fired and funding cuts, and it's like we at the state level rely on the federal level so much, that if the federal support system doesn't exist, like I really don't know what we're gonna do. The big fear of everyone in this room is that this administration at the federal level messes with Medicaid expansion funding,
Mhm.
and we are back here all summer trying to figure out how to fill $1 billion hole in the state budget. That's just one example. So I mean,
Yep.
to be frank, we're pretending like it's not happening in this room and plowing forward like everything is okay, and it is driving the Democratic side of the aisle nuts.
So I guess let's segue to the Medicaid. I know that there is a trigger state for Medicaid funding.
Yep.
And so maybe you have the same answer. Like, it's not quite clear what we're going to be there in the summertime figuring it out. Is that fair?
Yeah. I mean, essentially, if Medicaid gets touched at the federal level, we're going to be in a special session to try to fill in it. Well, Medicaid expansion alone is $1 billion. That doesn't include traditional Medicaid. I mean, Medicaid expansion blows $1 billion hole in the budget. Traditional Medicaid blows a larger one in the budget.
And so what is that $1 billion budget deficit is that part of the Medicaid expansion bill to like how to deal with that? Or
No,
is
no,
that
no, no, no. So, I mean, and this, I guess this goes back to the original question. We are operating as if everything's going to be fine.
okay? So
So
you're
what I'm,
saying is that if the federal government proceeds currently with their plans, like the US House budget, just the expansion part that the state house and legislature has proposed would cause $1 billion deficit. And
Yes, if if they cut funding at the federal level for Medicaid expansion, we at the state level have $1 billion hole in our budget. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. But they haven't done that yet. So it's pretty terrifying.
Let's see, I'm gonna go to some questions that I have missed here. A question back about wolves. Nina asked if there are any restrictions on taking collared wolves.
No. A wolf is a wolf in the eyes of the state.
Okay.
Yeah.
Joe Hancock comments that according to the most recent MFPE update a few hours ago, 506, which was the judiciary appointing justices by the city government, is still in committee, and
Yep.
record the union is opposed.
Well, there we go.
I thought I read something that the Senate had passed a partisan judge law, or passed that in their body.
Well, so that's what happens over there and what happens over here are two different things. We have not seen that bill yet. And I'm really trying to only keep track of stuff that is past this house, past that house, and gone to the governor. So
Anina also has let's see, she has two comments here. Remind us what the budget surplus was last year.
you'll hear different numbers in this room all the time, from 1.1 billion to 2.3 billion, and it depends on who the data is coming from, whether that's the governor's office, the legislative fiscal division, or an outside entity that has a budget estimate. So,
and I'm guessing the insinuation here is there's plenty for covering the budget shortfall with Medicaid expansion if the federal government moves ahead.
Well, currently, yes, but lest you forget, the governor wants to give rebates again. He wants to give back the $1 billion or so that are theoretically in a surplus.
Great.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, 90% of Montana Medicaid is federally funded.
That's correct.
Okay.
So the state puts in $100 million and the feds put in $900 million. That's the rough breakdown of that.
Hell of a deal.
It's a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
That's why it passed with bipartisan support.
Joe says that the HELP Act, and I don't actually know what the HELP Act is. So anyone can chime in.
Medicaid expansion, that's the actual name of the act.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see, circuit breaker, if they cut Medicaid expansion, effectively ending the program locally. And that's why you would be in session this summer. Yeah.
Yes. Because there's bipartisan interest in keeping this program going for the state. So we would come back and figure it out.
Jackie says that HB 121 passed House and Senate. Do you know when it's going to the governor?
I can look at that right now.
And HB 121
is the bathroom bill. Yeah, it's guys. So Zoe Zephyr sits 2 seats away. And you know, I never met her coming into this, and I was a little worried about all this. She's one of the kindest, most genuine people I've ever met in my life. And there's not a week that goes by that they don't just pour salt in the wound.
Yeah.
And we're looking for a way to give them, to give the other side of the aisle an off ramp, to make it so uncomfortable to continue doing. We're looking for something, and what it comes down to is we're outnumbered. And they stick together on this stuff because they know if they vote against it, they will be ostracized from their own party, and we won't welcome them with open arms. So we're looking for a way to give them an out. And this is the hardest thing, to sit here and watch this woman cry on the floor as she is bullied and assaulted with legislation that is targeting her and her community for simply existing. If there's my primary takeaway from this session is there are two things, well, there are three things that the opposition party does not want in the state of Montana: immigrants, wolves, and trans people. And it's terrible. So
Yeah, I saw a woman testifying before a Wyoming legislative committee the other day, purposefully using the wrong gender for the male chairman.
we passed that bill too.
You know, so maybe
Yeah.
Mispronouncing your colleagues on the Republican side is the way to make them see that it's an issue of respect. I don't know.
Well, I mean, Zoe nicknamed me the fascist whisperer because I've gotten them to back down on some of this. And I have good relations on the other side of the aisle. They're not, as much as we want to demonize and vilify and they want to do the same to us. It's like when the cameras aren't on and we're just in the hall, they're like, man, we are sick of this. The Republicans are saying that. So there's a concerted effort to figure out how to make this stop.
There's Go ahead,
Sorry,
Nina.
can I ask a question? Sorry, I've forgotten to select the raise hand function, so I apologize for jumping in. But
Jump on in.
Representative, I wonder, like, how can we help? Are there particular members that you think could be willing to consider siding with human rights, on the Republican side? Because we've heard stories about, on the Senate side, there are roughly 7 to 9 people who are willing to work with the Democrats. They're the so-called moderate Republicans who are aligned with the governor, because I hear that the far right senators hate the governor. So that to me is just sort of mind-blowing. But I wonder if you've seen any group of more independent minded representatives. It sounds like you're trying to figure out a way to help them vote the right way on these horrible bills that you say are coming up. Like, what I think the people on this call want to know how we can be helpful. And so if there's specific members we can call, even if we're not their direct constituents, we'd love to have that call to action, I think.
So give me 2 days. because I think we have figured out there's two strategies right now. One, and one I'm well, it's myself and Zoe and the minority leader have kind of figured this out. One of them are calling the off ramp, which is the procedural maneuver to allow the bill to kind of go away. The other is pure obstruction. So in theory, we could make each one of these anti-trans bills take 21 hours. And I think if you would have asked at the beginning of the session if the will was there to do it, the answer would have been no. But after all of this, it's here now. And we're up against the clock. So the question becomes, how many times do you want to sit here all day and all night, or do you want to go home? And we're willing to sit here.
Josh, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just jumped in. Yesterday at the library in Bozeman, Forward Montana was there to help the younger community on how to get their voices heard at the state level, make sure they're registered to vote. And I have to tell you, my heart was going out to a lot of these teenage and 20-year-olds who are looking at the state and seeing them as a threat. And they're not a threat. They just want to live their true, authentic self. And they're just trying to figure out, how does someone hear me? How do we get protected? And the reason why I came on tonight is to say thank you. Like, it is to have you up there representing us is, it's a light in this darkness that we kind of keep getting bombarded with. So I just say thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. I guess we can only do what we can do. But
Yeah.
yesterday was kind of rough sitting in there listening to the young kids. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jackie. I'm honored to be here. And I didn't know what I didn't know before I got here. I didn't know it was going to be like this. And I didn't know that I was going to be sitting here with Zoe right there, and that it was going to be incessant. We had the bathroom bill. We had the no trans youth in sports bill. We had the you can call me whatever the hell you want bill. But the question is, when is it going to be enough? And I think the answer for the other side of the aisle is when Montana criminalizes being trans. Full stop. And there are people over there who are good people who are looking for a way to stop this. And there's enough of them with enough of us to make it end. And the real question is there enough courage to just take the no vote? And I don't think there is yet. So, all of these bills have gone. That's actually not true. The first three went, they passed 58-42, which is the exact partisan breakdown. And then the other day, we had one that passed 55-45. Three of them came with us because they're tired of it. We needed 5 votes on third reading to kill it, and we couldn't get them. But they're working on it as much as we are to get votes over there to end this shit. Sorry, apologize for my language.
As a gay man who, gay men and lesbians have been sharing bathrooms with straight men and women for over 15 years without any issue. And so the logic of it doesn't make any sense. Why you would be comfortable with, I know that starts to perhaps disparage my own sexuality, but the risk is non-existent in reality. And yeah, anyway.
I don't get it. Like I said earlier, it's just at this point, it's just pouring salt in the wound. And it hurts. Bad.
I wonder if you can't appeal to their humanity, can you appeal to the fact that, we get national news for our intolerance? Do we want Montana to be known for that? I mean, maybe there's some so-called patriots who would say, okay, this is not good for business. This is not good for, the Montana brand. If you can't argue, if you can't convince them on to be tolerant, maybe, I don't know. It's really so disheartening. And I echo what Jackie was saying. I'm just so grateful that you and others are up there working on all these issues that shouldn't be so difficult. They really shouldn't.
I agree. And the economic argument hasn't stuck.
Yeah.
So again, right now the two strategies are some sort of off ramp. And I don't want to get into that. I don't want to get into the details of that too much because it is purely procedural. And then the other is just pure disruption. That's the last resort.
I'm gonna change topics.
Oh, should we go back to talking about my bills?
Yeah, we got through a whole one of them.
Yeah, we did.
I'm gonna interject my one question I'm particularly personally interested in really quick before we run out of time. But if are there any bills being put forth with respect to climate change, or more interestingly, way to frame it would be to increase our supply of domestic energy that reduces our reliance on the variance of foreign energy supplies? Is there anything moving in the legislation?
Well, I know that Chris Pope got a solar bill passed the other day. So there's that. And then we have again, I'm not on energy. So there's something on our side, but there's also some terrible stuff too, like a 2-mile setback from any public land on a wind farm. And roads are considered public, right? So it's a mess. Before we wrap up, I just want to say that tomorrow in House Judiciary, which is not a very friendly environment, I have a bill that will extend notice for renters on lease changes and terminations to 90 days.
I saw that. That's awesome.
So, I mean, I came into the session with a lot of things I wanted to do that were already being done by someone else. And this particular 90-day change felt like the right thing for our community. It gives people more time to make a decision on whether they're going to try to move or whether they're going to just pay the rent hike. But it feels like a solid, reasonable thing to do.
Yeah, 30 days is a pretty tough time frame to find new housing in this area and actually logistically make it happen.
Yeah,
especially if you've got a February lease like myself. It could be bad. So kudos. Let's see, the other bills, there's the river use report.
Yep. So that's directing FWP to count everything that floats. As we all know, our rivers are getting more traffic than ever. So it tells them to count everything from a float tube to a drift boat to a raft, and publish it in a report. And this is almost statewide. There's a few rivers we left off because they're seldom used, or they're, you know, way out in the middle of nowhere, and it's like, we don't need to know, no one's going there anyways. It spends a little bit of money. It has uphill battle in the appropriations committee, but it establishes a baseline level of use that we can use in the future to determine if we need to regulate user groups or prioritize other, it's a study that needs to be done, especially from my perspective as a guide. It has bipartisan support. It has a coalition of citizens and outfitters and guides that are behind it. And the department helped me put this thing together and find the money. So it seems like, again, from my perspective, maybe not from everyone else's, it's kind of a no-brainer. And then the other bill is block management for access. And if you're not familiar with the block management program, it's for hunting. And I'm doing that. But so this is for access only. So if you have a piece of land in between a public access point, call it a road, call it a trailhead, whatever, and there's private land in between that public access point and public land, the Department of Fish, Wildlife, and Parks and the landowner can enter into an agreement to allow people to cross that land. This has the ability, based on our calculations, to unlock theoretically 3 million acres of public land that is currently inaccessible in the state of Montana.
That's crazy. Is that specifically prohibited?
Yes. So right now, under the block management program, you can enter an agreement that allows people to hunt, but only they can hunt the land. They can't just cross it. So this has a lower, it pays less than the hunting block management agreements. So those are still around. So it pays the landowner less, but it doesn't allow people to hunt while they cross the land. They can just use it for its access only. But again, it theoretically could open up 3 million acres of public land that you and I own, to access. It's kind of incredible.
That's awesome.
And that bill has, by both of those bills, the river census, as I've been calling it, and the block management access have wide bipartisan support. I don't know how I'm the first guy to come up with these ideas, but
well, we're glad that you're doing it.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Really quick, there's a couple of things in the chat I haven't got to. The governor wants to cut more wants to increase tax cuts for the upper income. Is that correct?
Yes, he does.
Okay. And anything else we can do besides calling the Republican representatives with our concerns? And this is from Allison. She's making calls and feeling helpless. And so I have an answer for that, but Josh, do you have a particular answer for that?
I want to hear your answer.
We have a protest that we're organizing to gain visibility on March 16th. We're going to meet at the Gallatin County Courthouse. I'll drop the flyers in the chat in a second, but I too have felt exactly the same way. There's a group of unaffiliated Bozeman citizens who started protesting every Sunday. I went to the first one. It was amazing. I'd really like to have Bozeman show a really large contingent at one of these. I think that would be really powerful. And there's a huge amount of people out there who have no idea how we're feeling. They're fed algorithms through their social media, and they only see, the whitewashed right side of the news. And so I think being visible to me feels really powerful right now. So that's my answer.
I would wholeheartedly agree with that. Additionally, call the people in this room, call the people in the Senate, show up here. Make your voice heard in this building. I know that's a big ask from Bozeman. And then I was in order of priority, show up here if you can, make phone calls if you can, send emails, and then every day I get a stack of these. These are messages from, this is from Bob Milton, who says vote no on HB 647. This is from Sarah Lundquist, who says vote yes on HB 660. Paul Brand, vote. That's a long one. I'm not going to read it. I don't know how he wants me to vote, but I have a stack of these on my desk here. The problem is whether people will respond to their emails, people will answer their phone, or people will read these. And if they're not doing that, that's when you have to get in front of them in the committee setting and make your voice heard. This is your house. It's not mine. You just gave me the honor of working here. This is your house. Show up, be loud, get some things done.
Great place to end. I think this has been super interesting. I have to say, great dialogue, great questions, smart answers, smart representation. Thank you, Josh. I'm thrilled for you and what you're doing for the state. I put a link to the rally from my Instagram because I can't drop files in the chat apparently. So take a look there. And with that, thank you, Josh. Keep up the fight, the good fight.
I'll just say this in closing. You know, in the opening, you said that he found his true passion in fly fishing 10 years ago or whatever. This is my true passion. This being in the fight, being in the arena, finding the loopholes in the rules, which someone said to me on my way up here. They were like, I can't wait till you figure out how to take the rules and use them against them. And it is my mission in life to make this place either work more efficiently for our side of the aisle or work less efficiently for theirs. So
Amen. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, everyone.
absolutely. Everybody have a great night. Thank you so much for logging on and chatting. So
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Josh.
yeah, absolutely.
Bye-bye.